A £10 million flood defence scheme is nearing completion on the Somerset Levels, one of the largest projects of its kind since the devastating floods of 2013 and 14. The work focuses on raising the banks of the Sedgemoor Drain, a critical artery in the complex system of rivers and flood relief channels that help keep 150 square miles of land dry. The upgrades will allow nearly 25% more floodwater to flow through the River Sowy and Sedgemoor Drain system, easing pressure on nearby communities and farmland, particularly in and around Langport.
It's the culmination of the first main phase of work that the Somerset Rivers Authority was created for in 2015-16. It was to reduce the risk of another flood like the serious one in 2014, when nearly 200 houses were flooded and a lot of businesses were affected, railways were closed, roads were closed. That did a lot of damage. Well, what we're looking at, behind me are the excavators doing the final bit of raising the riverbank by a metre or so. Yeah, I call it a river. It's a flood relief channel, Sedgemoor Drain. And what that does is means that 25% more water can flow down this bit of the system, which is the bottom end of the catchment in the Somerset Levels. So the water comes in 35 miles upstream around Chepton Mallet, around Chard, above the Oval, and it all comes together down here when there's a big rainstorm. The Parrett is too full, so the flood relief channel, River Sowy, takes it, and that sends it down to the Sedgemoor Drain, and that sends it out to the Bristol Channel just below Bridgewater. And the effect of it is to protect all those properties, particularly in Moorland, Northmoor Green, that were flooded in 2014. We've achieved a huge amount in 10 years, and we're going to go on doing it, but we can never do enough. There's never enough money to do enough and make it absolutely certain that there'll never be flooding. In fact, you can be sure sometime there will be flooding, but that big flood is only 11 years ago. And they talked about that flood being a 1 in 100 year event, which is kind of slightly misleading, and it's a 1 in 100 chance really. So it could happen again in 100 years, it could happen again next year. But the situation is a lot better than it was then.
Tony Bradford, chair of the Parrett Internal Drainage Board, has seen firsthand how winter rainfall now sparks fear across rural Somerset, and how every time it rains can cause stress for those living on the levels.
I never used to be anxious until 13-14, and then after 13-14 we had the serious floods for Moorland and Fordgate when everything was deluged. People became very anxious when it started to rain heavy in the winter, and they're very fearful it could happen again. So by doing projects like this and the water injection dredging on the river at Parrett, it not only alleviates flooding, but it also gives the people in the surrounding area confidence that something's being done to safeguard their homes and property. When David Cameron came down and said this flooding cannot happen again here, we formed the Somerset Rivers Authority. We raise about 2.8 million a year, and we fund projects like this on a prioritised basis. And I should imagine the next priority will be probably to work on the River Brew, because I feel a bit guilty because all the work that's been done so far has been in the Parrett area, but they're crying out for work on the River Brew to be done, and I hope we can be successful in doing something up there.
Engineers say the improvements will have a measurable impact, especially in the county where water has little gradient to escape to the sea.
Well, there's no doubt about it. The engineers from the past knew a thing or two. So if you go back into the history of the Sedgemoor Drain and its drainage plan, going back decades now, they certainly knew a thing or two about how to manage the water in a way that was fit for purpose at that time. We've now brought it on 50 odd years or so with the help of the Somerset River Authority funding the works, and without any shadow of a doubt, the improvements that will be finished fairly soon here will undoubtedly reduce the duration and extent of flooding over 150 square kilometres of the Somerset Levels and moors. So what we have provided here is additional storage within these flood banks that's being raised now to accommodate this extra flow that can be brought down from the Parrett to alleviate the villages of Northmoor, the moors of Currymore and around Langport as well. So the more water that we can convey down the Parrett flood relief channel, which is the Sedgemoor Drain, which you see behind me now, the better it will be for everybody, because we can then discharge that water by gravity without the need for expensive pumping straight out to sea when conditions allow.
It's not a silver bullet, and in a man-made landscape shaped by centuries of drainage, the risk of flooding will never disappear completely. But for many, these latest works represent progress and peace of mind. Lewis Clark, Somerset Live on the Somerset Levels.